date of nirvana or enlightenment and the date of his passing away, parinirvana, all in the same date. The significance of 3 in 1 date is like the 2 futile ends of birth and death of an appearance is holding the enlightenment in the center of it. So the enlightenment signifies Buddha's birth and Buddha's parinirvana. So nirvana is the most significant date. Though, if anybody follows the eightfold path of Lord Buddha, enlightenment never ends, it carries on. If you see the 4th noble truth, starting for perfection, starting from right view, right commitment, right expression, right activity, right life and livelihood, right diligence, right memory, and a right awareness or samadhi, it comes back to the start. One who has done rightly all the 8 will start again view. That view will be perfection of view, perfection of commitment, perfection of expression, perfection of action, perfection of daily life and livelihood, perfection of diligence, perfection of memory or thought and judgment, and perfection of samadhi. After that, the same person will have the view, transcendental view, transcendental commitment, transcendental expression, transcendental activity, transcendental life and livelihood, transcendental diligence, transcendental memory, thought and judgment, and transcendental samadhi. So the enlightenment never stops. It carries on. That is why the wheel of dharma is shown as a wheel which moves, which never stops. Because the basic truth is not 1 but 2. 1 is the truth of changefulness of life, from where we get perplexed and search for liberation. And the other truth is the permanent truth, which is realized in nirvana, the truth which is void. So the world and the void is simultaneous. As all the heavenly bodies, the planets, stars, comets, they're all in the sky, but that doesn't disturb the sky. Even the sky doesn't disturb the forms. And all forms come up from the void and merge into the void. Thus, all forms are in voidness. This ness is the changefulness or veracity of creation, added or inseparable from the void of samadhi. So one whose samadhi or transcendence have become transcendent, or the identity connected to the body, identity connected to emotions, identity connected to mind or thoughts, identity connected to judgments, and identity connected to spirituality or the understanding of the Vedantic self. All these identities dissolve in nirvana. The term nirvana in Sanskrit means ni is a prefix and vana means identity. Vana actually means 5 things. Vana, to start at, in the physical level, vana means gender. In emotional or sensory level, vana means speed. How our senses connect with sense objects and how our emotions run after desirable objects. Vana in the state of mind is the flame of a lamp which dispels darkness. Vana in the state of judgment means a lakshya veda, or an arrow that hits the target, or ambition. Vana in the spiritual sense is self-identity. But identity still remains. Buddha went through 5 consecutive meditations, entering through yoga, entering into the void, and came back with a resolution of each of the proceedings. And thus there is 5 stages of nirvana counted in the Buddhist wisdom understanding. In Vaishnava darshan, 4 nirvanas were already there. Though it first came into Vaishnava darshan of Agama, but Shaiva darshan, Shakta darshan, and Jaina darshan also had these 4 stages. Non-identity through physical, emotional, mental, and judgmental stages of development, entering into spirituality. But spirituality itself is not also free from suffering, because the identity of the spirituality can grow the ego. Somebody is not accepting me. Somebody is not respecting me. I am so and so. I'm such a spiritual enlightened being. I need care and attention. This is also observed by Lord Buddha as a cause or a seed of coming back to samsara or the changefulness of life and create the other identities which will be cause of all sufferings. Thus, nirvana of Buddha in wisdom, understanding, nullifies Buddha's birth and Buddha's passing away from the body. Because Buddha is not a soul anymore. A soul is a congregation of this 5 probability of ego identity. And so long the ego identity is there of any of these elements, it will regenerate into all the 5 elemental identities. And the congregation of these identities may not agree with each other. Just think of yourselves. What your body wants, does that all the time your emotions agree with it? Your mind agree with it? Your judgment agree with it? Your self-respect agree with it? Not always. What your emotion wants is not similarly agreed to by your physical identity, your mental identity, your judgmental identity, and your transcendental identity. What your mental identity wants or rejoices in may not be enjoyed by your physical identity, emotional identity, judgmental identity, and spiritual identity. What your judgmental identity enjoys may make you suffer in body, in emotions, in your mind, in your judgment, and also can disagree with in your spiritual identity. And as you know, from multiple schools of faith, view, and thoughts, that the spiritual identity tries to be singular, away from physical, emotional, mental, and judgmental identities. So it's like 5 me living together as a family, and we are fighting against each other. This is the cause and start of identity crisis, which is the root cause of suffering, desires of each identity clashing with the other identity. Buddha called nirvana a 5-fold non-identity. What is the difficulty with identity? Physical identity is always standing on jealousy and competition. Think of it a little. It is inside us through the evolution process. Natural world also have this competitiveness as the survival of the fittest. But that entered human world in enjoying hunting, war, fights as modes of enjoyment. This is the physical poison is competitiveness. Irsharati, jealousy, competitiveness. The emotional poison is desirous passion, which is never happy and content. Creative people will know it very well. And the philosophy of creativity always says, if you are satisfied, your creation has stopped. So creation needs to be always dissatisfied. So the dissatisfaction is the suffering out of passion. All the suffering is starting from dissatisfaction. All emotions, if brought together, their energy will be called passion. The poison of the mental identity is ignorance, my view. If I realize that your view is right, still I will not accept it. Because otherwise, what is my identity? How I am big that I have thought better than you. Even this thoughts of one fighting with the another is not enough. You are fighting with your own thoughts. Because that is ignorance. So it doesn't mean that ignorance is no knowledge. Ignorance is incomplete knowledge, half knowledge. In Sanskrit, it is called Alpa Vidya Bhayankari. Little knowledge is dangerous. No knowledge is better. When we go to Facebook, we will see how much little knowledge fights with little knowledge. And there is always thousands of versions. Nobody may be rightly understanding the other's view. Prior to that, their ego is hurt. They are fighting. So misunderstanding, wrong understanding, which is ignorance, also comes from ego, mental ego, thinking ego. I think I understand better than you. And then is the judgmental identity. What we judge, if we wait another 10, 12 years, we will find our judgment has changed. Till for that judgment, I've lost so many people that I loved. I might have lost so many things because of judgment. So if the mind is not happy, how the judgment out of it will come as a happy judgment. The judgmental identity also has a poison. Like the mind has a poison called ignorance, wrong understanding, misunderstanding, incomplete knowledge, all under ignorance. Similarly, judgment, poison of judgment is hatred. That is also a fight. And if you go to spiritual identity, then you will see, if you say two self-realizers even meeting each other, they will still debate. I've seen it in my life. Why? Because one's view must be more clearer than the other. This is going on. Because it's judgmental, it's spiritual, but still identity. So long spiritual identity prevails, divine love doesn't take place. And when divine love comes, then the spiritual identity vanquishes. So all these 5 identities are our 5 evils or deeds of evils, and the evil is called a mara in Buddhism. Mara means identity. If there is any greatest enemy in your life, it's your ego. Wrong understanding, misunderstanding of yourself, which is the cause of all suffering. Nirvana is transcending all the 5 identities. Now you may think, if all the identities will go, then how I will survive? How does a tree survive? It doesn't fight with identity. That is why yogis choose to sit under trees to get that energy. Not only yogis, I've seen shamans all over the world, wherever I've gone. The shamans always choose to meditate or take a decision sitting under a tree or embracing a tree. Because the energy of non-identity and grounded in earth, human being is losing it. So nirvana is the goal of every soul, to wear out the soul into pure consciousness. You may say, how that can be possible? All great philosophies of Vedas and Vedantas have spoken about the self. Yes, Buddha also have spoken about the self. Bodhisattva, even you have attained bodhi or enlightenment or realization, till your sattva or your identity has not dissolved. And thus you may need 10,000 lifetimes to course, practice in perfection of wisdom to reach non-identity. In Shiva Sutra, Shiva says in the first chapter of Shambhavapaya, Chaitanya Atma, Chaitanya, pure consciousness, tends to be Atma, which is self or soul. In pure consciousness, it is not said Atma Chaitanyam, it has been said Chaitanyam Atma. And the next sloka is Gyanang Bandhaha. Knowledge is the bondage. So when pure consciousness turns to self, it becomes ego by the bondage of knowledge. Pure consciousness has no identity. Those who have experienced this non-identity by perpetually practicing samadhi, they only will know how to exist without an identity how one can witness the meaninglessness of the self, though is living a life. And to follow this path, the Buddhists have respected the three jewels or surrendered to three jewels. What are the three jewels? Buddhang sharanang gacchami, dhammang sharanang gacchami, sanghang sharanang gacchami. Just by surrendering to Buddha or meeting the Buddha is not enough. You have to follow his teachings and instructions. That is the dharma. Because how will you hold the Buddha? Only by dharma. How you hold the Guru? By the adesh of the Guru. And what is a Sangha? Sangha is the community that follows the teaching, associates. If your associates are not attuned to your practice of dharma, then those associations will make you one day lose the dharma, and by that lose the Buddha also. So when a higher bodhisattva who is enlightened, but still the self is not dissolved, who is a Atma Jnani, but not Atma Mukta, has got mukti from changefulness, ignorance, but has not got mukti or liberation from the self-identity. An irreversible bodhisattva, a bodhisattva who has gone far in the journey, in Buddha's understanding and later by the institutionalization of Tantra. Tantra is the practice of the ultimate mind structure, ultimate structure of the 5 elemental identities. In Tantra, when one is initiated in the Buddhist world, Buddhang Sharanang Gacchami becomes Buddha Gurung Sharanang Gacchami. I'm taking refuge of the Buddha in my Guru, who is an enlightened being. So without an enlightened being, there is no Guru. Nowadays, everybody is a Guru. So without a teacher, an acharya, an exemplifier, shikshaka and acharya are also guides, but they're not Guru. They're either shikshak or acharya. People claim themselves to be Guru. Shikshak is teaching a subject. Acharya is practicing a life which is the living instruction. But enlightened being is not holding on even to any dharma. Dharmas are like clouds. Buddha said in Prajnaparamita, they float in the void of the sky and create beautiful thoughts and visions. But they also wear off. They also continuously change their form. Thus, dharma, a discipline, changes itself into another discipline, that changes itself into another discipline, and that is the proceeding in the journey of nirvana. Until and unless dharma has also ended up, nirvana is not possible. Buddha calls it like a compassionate cloud, a compassionate dharma thunders and roars, because it will break down now into the flow of love and touch the earth, helping every life to enrich from the terrain. Similarly, in a Buddha, dharma clouds gather, thunder, and rain down to all who nourishes in it. Buddha called dharma megha, the dharma clouds. Dharma means that is reliable to hold on to. So to hold on to a Buddha, because the holding on is in the mind. What you hold on to the Buddha? To the mortal body of the Buddha? To the relics of the Buddha? To the view of the Buddha? No, it's to not the vision of the Buddha. Buddha in Prajnaparamita says, if somebody who has never heard of the Buddha, never worshipped a stupa, never read this text of Prajnaparamita, but abides in the same reality of wisdom, is also a Buddha. So in that sense, Buddha's dharma is not a religion that you become Buddhist, thus you will enlighten. No. You will enlighten through the Eightfold Path only. The Eightfold Path is being practiced by the Sangha or the congregation. Those who are practicing the virtues of the Dharma and share among each other their experiences, they are the best of companions. In Tantra, Dharma becomes Ishta. Dharmang Ishtang Sharanam Gacchami. Ishta means, God or deity. Many people wrongly think that Buddha didn't allow the thought of any god. No. In the state of Dharma, there is God and gods and many gods and goddesses. The consciousness as your ideal personified, because you are a person, as your ideal, according to your samskara, is your Ishta. Thus, your Ishta or your worshipping a particular deity is the form of your ideal, which is ultimately pure consciousness. Thus, all gods and goddesses have emanated from the void and merged into the void. They also have identities, except a very few deities like Tara, most others are bodhisattvas. They are identified as an ideal. Tara is not identified as an ideal. Tara is the personification of wisdom as it is. In Prajnaparamita, Lord Buddha calls wisdom Tara, or the savioress. Tara means one who saves, the mother. So Buddha is saying, there are 10,000 Buddhas growing in her tummy as embryos. So the Ishta in your journey is your dharma manifested in form of God. In Tantra, Sangha becomes more condensed and precise. It's called Shakting or Satvang Sharanam Gacchami. Your Sangha, your association, immediate association, most important association is your divine consort, your beloved. Because if you don't practice love with somebody, you are not in love with somebody who does not abide with your virtues, with your ideology, your virtues and ideology will perish. And the natural state of a human being is not alone, is with somebody. So in Tantra, your wife, your husband, your consort, your beloved is your Sangha. So Buddha Gurung Sharanam Gacchami, Dharma Ishtang Sharanam Gacchami, Sangha Shakting or Satvang Sharanam Gacchami. When you have touched enlightenment, you have entered into the final enlightenment, and you are an Avadhuta. The Buddha Guru has turned into your nothingness of being. Nairatmakang Sharanam Gacchami. Myself has taken a refuge of the nothingness of self. Bodhisattva, the Bodha, the Dharma, who is the Ishta, has become Swabodha. Here, it's the same realization in many ways, not exactly the same as Vedanta also. Swabodha, abiding in self-existence of being, is my dharma, is my discipline. I'm maintaining a discipline of abiding in spontaneous self-wisdom. So that is the third refuge of Sahaja. And the third of the third refuge, Sangha, is Swarupa Sabhavam, my self-realization, and hence my behavior is taking refuge of the self-sameness derived from self-realization. What? The realization of the self is nothing. So Samadhi Maya Jivanam is Sahaja Jivanam. The life of Samadhi is the easy life. Maybe it seems quite difficult to you to apprehend, but it's very easy. How easy it is? Like if you don't have a good rest, a good sleep, you don't have a good day, your actions are not proper, your thoughts are not proper, tiredness. So the truth of life, which is changeful, can also be made healthy with a deep sleep. A conscious deep sleep is samadhi. How samadhi comes? Through dhyana. Dhyana is meditation. What is meditation? Contemplating in yourself, nothing outside you, nothing objectifying, your own self-feeling. How that can be derived? That can be derived from yoga. What is yoga? Joining the two opposite ends of you together. Your mind is always fluctuating, your body and mind is always fluctuating between two equal opposites, both sides of the coin. If you see a wheel moving, suppose this is moving, one in this side will see it moving either clockwise or anti-clockwise, and the one in the other side will see just the opposite. If I am seeing it's moving clockwise, you will see it moving anti-clockwise. This is the cause of all ignorance. So to agree with you, fighting that the wheel is moving clockwise or the wheel is moving anti-clockwise, we are fighting between two opposite viewpoints. If holding to my viewpoint, I try to see the inevitable opposite viewpoint, then I will see that my viewpoint itself is holding the opposite viewpoint. And from there, I will find a resolution. So these two opposite views in Tantra is designed as the Vajra. See, center is zero and two opposite polarization going into end. This is pulsation in the body. The pulsation is expanding and contracting every moment, which is creating in emotion opposite and extreme emotions. At the same time, it can happen also. Suppose you are in love with somebody and the love is so intense that you have become angry with that same person. So love has made you to fight. It's so well-known truth. In the mind, it is the binary, the two opposite thoughts. In judgment, indecision. Or partiality. And in identity, I'm somebody for myself, somebody else for you. See where from self-cheating comes. So the yoga is joining these two together, showing these two are not two different things, like duality and non-duality. If you are saying non-duality as the truth, then you are also refuting duality to prove what is your truth. You cannot be free from duality to prove your truth. And thus it is called Advaita or non-duality. That means duality is there. I am trying to get rid of it. And I think I have got rid of it. So I'm saying it is non-duality. The term non-duality itself is non, is the prefix. The main word is duality. So the duality prevails. Buddha gave you the middle point. This middle point, if you practice under another accomplished being or an enlightened master, your extreme polarization will get together. And how it will get together, that is the teaching mudra Buddha. Buddha is doing like this as a teaching mudra. Two opposite motions, in between is the truth. The truth is neither this nor that, also this, also that, neither refutation of this or that, nor assertion of this or that. This is the basic premises of all the 5 agamas or philosophy of life. They never went into a partial judgment of one truth. It's a parallel truth. It's the 2 wheels of the chariot. 2 wheels are carrying you. It's not one wheel. It's 2 wheels. And those who lose the parallelity of the 2 truths, they either disrespect life, from where they've come up to the thought of enlightenment, or where itself they are enlightened. Like Adi Shankaracharya, he misunderstood his Guru's teachings, Govinda Padacharya. Govinda Padacharya gave him the first teaching as a novice little boy, that how the 5 elements are the same and how the 5 elements are different, find out. So there, his Panchakoshi comes out. So he's refuting the 5 elements to find the truth. He heard only one side of the Guru, how the 5 elements are different. So the difference is not truth, indifference is truth. So all the 5 elements are futile according to him. He missed the other side, which is how the 5 elements are the same. This consciousness he didn't attain. Just 2 days back, last week, I was talking to somebody that where Shankara is wrong can be found in teachings of Gauda Padacharya, his Parama Guru, Govinda Padacharya's Guru Gauda Padacharya. Both Govinda Pad and Gauda Pad were acharyas of Nalanda University. In Manjushri Karika, a text written by Gauda Padacharya, he, in the Mangalacharana, he pays his highest homage and respect to Buddha, calling him as the Lord and Master of all times for all people. And he agrees with Buddha's precepts one by one and says that he has derived his realization through the view of the Buddha. Recently, 2 days back, Banibroto has sent me a text of Gauda Padacharya. No, not Banibroto, Moinak. Moinak has sent me a text found of Gauda Padacharya, which is also a Buddhist text written by Gauda Padacharya, refuting all other views fallible in the view in front of Buddha's view of perfection of wisdom. Nagarjuna, who is said to be the second Buddha, said if there is no samsara, no life, what did you think of nirvana that you will attain nirvana? So yoga, joining the two opposite and equal ends through your body pulsation to your emotional pulsation, to your mental pulsation, to your judgmental pulsation, to no pulsation in samadhi. That is the way of yoga, dhyana, and samadhi. One leads to the other. Those who are practicing with me here, those who are continuing their practice, whichever state you are, whatever I have said, you have already experienced it into your standards. Those who have not practiced, they are listening to my wisdom experiences. As information. The information will not help you anything but to repeat it and take credit from others. Only that will help you is practicing yoga, dhyan, and samadhi.
বলছি যে can you just explain the 5 identities once again, just in brief, because I had missed the first part of the session.
5 identities are physical identity. Will I make a little joke about it?
Yes.
Okay. Then somebody needs to see your Facebook profile. Every day is a new hero's picture. How many dresses make your identity? How much bare body makes your identity? How much hairstyles make your identity? You're not happy with your identity, even physically. Every day you are changing it. Next is emotional identity. Oh Baba, acho naki koi kotha bolcho na keno? Baba, Baba, Baba. In the message, 20 messages coming from Sandipan. Baba, are you there? Are you not there? I may answer one in a blue moon, because I know the moment I answer, many more Babas will come. So that is emotional identity. Mental identity. As many avenues of art you practice and concentrate on, they are your identities. Artist Sandipan, religious Sandipan, devotee Sandipan, musician Sandipan, professor Sandipan, designer Sandipan. So many Sandipans. In one house, I am showing how many more identities can come up. Then judgmental identity. Baba, I called you so many times, you didn't answer me, you don't love me. Judgment. Baba, the emotional identity is not agreeing with this judgmental identity. And finally, your self-realization as your identity. If you have got it, you know. If you have not got it, you will not know. And I cannot speak about it. Only I can say that in the trident of Shiva, the 3 spikes, one is physical suffering, another is mental suffering, and the third one, the central one, is spiritual suffering. So long there is a spiritual identity, still there is suffering. So these are the 5 basic sufferings. are 5 basic identities. These 5 identities create 5 suffering. The physical identity creates competitive suffering. The emotional identity creates passionate sufferings. Mental identity or thought identity creates wrong understanding, misunderstanding, multiple views suffering or ignorant suffering. And the judgmental identity creates hatred suffering. And the spiritual identity creates irritation. Ask any guru. That is why gurus do mahotsav or big celebration and congregation only to combat their irritation. The irritation is all the people around them know them better than they know themselves. So these are the 5 identities and 5 sufferings.
Baba?
Yes, Ma?
Someone in the chat named Kasia is asking, she's saying, I'm new here. Can any of you please say what is the path that Baba is teaching? Is it Shaktipath?
Path and Shaktipath does not mean the same thing.
I know, that's funny.
Shaktipath is not easy, is between the renderer and the recipient. One who questioned it, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Shaktipath means the energy connection that flows from a guru to a disciple, a renderer and a receiver. That is absolutely in person to person. When we are going through internet, you are only hearing my voice and seeing my form. But my flow of electron particles, which is the Shakti, is not reaching you from person to person. But if you are capable of receiving Shaktipath, then you can receive from my voice and my vision. But that is not common or regular. That is a development that has grown in you after receiving many Shaktipaths. When you know the science of coordinating Shaktipath, does that make any sense to you?
Yes.
Do you understand?
It does. Yeah, I do understand.
Shaktipath in English translation will be called energy transmission. The school I come from, what I'm teaching today, I'm teaching Buddha's understanding of Nirvana and the tantric view and practice of it in theory. Because I cannot teach you a practice in internet. I can only discuss about the theory of it. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
You have any more questions about it?
Yes, how we could meet.
We can meet if you come here or if I visit where you are, but my saying Corona will not allow that now.
Yes. Right.
But if you find your own inner energy by your practices, you can take practices from me, but you won't get the Shaktipath. So if you come to me and take a practice, that will work. But if from a distance you take a practice through an instruction, that may work, may not work. I cannot guarantee that. That's why many people say, why I don't take virtual yoga classes here. No, it cannot be. Or if I do, it will not be fair judgment to everybody. Those who are my old disciples, they will receive it, they will know it, because they already are habituated with it. But they can take a new instruction also. But those who are not connected to me may be difficult, though I will say in virtual personal classes, I've taught a number of people from distance. A number of them have attained the fruits of the practices. That made me sure that it's not that my instruction is the best, but they were already ready to take the instruction spiritually. So they received it. So they practiced it. Later they have met me after they've accomplished on those meditations. They wanted to meet me, but it is not that nobody can receive Shaktipath through internet, but it's not sure. Probabilities are there. It may not be also. Any other question? Acha. Camilo R is saying, hi, could you explain a little more about spiritual identity poison? Oh, this is quite a question. Camilo, have you experienced spiritual identity?
Hi, Baba. I think a little. Yes.
If you have experienced spiritual identity, you know that when you talk about that spirituality or your realization with anybody, you will have conflicts. Many will accept it, many will not accept it. When somebody is not accepting, the way you get hurt is your spiritual identity poison. That is irritation. Is it clear?
Clear. Thank you, Baba.
Okay. Any other question?
Namaste, Baba.
Namaste. Who is it?
My name is Blessing from Kerala. I'm currently practicing Namah Shivay daily chanting. Accidentally noted some of your points on Tara and your YouTube videos. So I would like to join, Baba. What can I do?
So you have to fast. The tantric practices are divided into 3 sections. The alternative practices or the Vikalpa Sadhana, which is gods and goddesses. They are in 3 sections: Shri Vidya, Kali Vidya, and Tara Vidya. Tara Vidya is the final. So you have to practice Shri, then you practice Kali, then you practice Tara. Because Shri in final realization is the cosmic truth, which is Brahman, or the great expansiveness. Kali Vidya, in essence, is timelessness. Until and unless you realize the cosmic truth, it is difficult to understand timelessness. Because timelessness is in a state of samadhi where there is no speed, there is no motion. Even in the expansion of Brahman, there is a motion. Because the Brahman itself speaks about expansion. So expansion is a motion. But in Kali, there is no motion. Stillness, which we call in Sanskrit Kaivalya. In English, it can be translated as onlyness. And Tara is beyond that. Tara is void. From void, how you see your life is Tara. So when you are worshipping as a deity with devotion, it's different. But when you are doing a sadhana, they are chronological. Okay. Any more questions?
Baba, Shusho. Baba.
Who is it?
Shusho.
Yes.
Can I ask?
Shushabhan. Yes,
So-
Dara, let me see you first. এবার দেখতে পেয়েছি, বল। Say.
Rather a question, I have a query about that fact that you said there's trees have no identity or dis-identity. That's why shamans take place under trees. So trees are same as a body like us, as a being like us, where a being means many cells has accumulated a identity to feed the body. So they
It's
should
not an
have,
identity. Cells can come together without an identity. Identity is outcome of psychological assertion.
okay. Okay.
There is
Then-
no psychological assertion in a tree.
Okay. So, but in a human body or any animal's body, there is some kind of assertion.
Not body. Assertion
Okay.
is in mind.
Okay. Now it's been clear.
Okay.
Take it.
One more question I have.
Yeah.
Hello. You
Yes.
talked about that each identity has a poison.
Yeah.
So
A
if
poison
if
is generated from each identity in conflict.
okay, so how do I
When there are
resolve
multiple
this?
identities, there is conflict.
So how
So-
do I resolve this?
By samadhi.
By samadhi. That is yoga, dhyana, and samadhi. That is what you talked about.
Observing how your identity is fusing.
It's conflicting.
Is fusing. How your identity is getting
fusing.
lost. You are going into a deep sleep. How you are entering the sleep. If you practice it, it will become yoga nidra, and from there you will get a nidra samadhi. Okay, let others question also. Yes, Mario, say.
Adesh, as you said, there is a poison by each one of this identity, and which is the medicine for each poison, like the non-dual, the other side, like the medicine for each
Yeah.
poison. Can you name? Thank you.
Yes. The thing is, every identity will conflict with the other identity. And in that conflict, every identity, these 5 elemental basic identities, have their own characters, and from there, a certain poison will come up. And if you witness that poison without enacting that poison, suppose you are not competing from your physical identity, but you are witnessing your competitiveness inside you. if you carry it on for some time, that observation itself will take you to the saturation of observation. And that will take you to dissolving of the thought of the poison. That is being mindful in yourself about the poison. Like if you are very sad, you are focusing on why you are sad, the reasons you are sad. You will carry on being sad. But you focus on your sadness. Just witness your sadness and go on witnessing it. After some time, the sadness will go. It's a practical thing. If you can try it, you will find it out. Any more questions?
Can I ask one?
Yeah.
বিশ্বজিৎ,
হ্যাঁ শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
ভালো আছিস আশা করি, দেখতেই পাচ্ছি।
ভালো।
Purification through self-conflict.
Purification of self-conflict is resolving the differences of the self-identities. It's a process of meditation.
Okay.
I teach a meditation called Panchaskandha Vipassana or Panchakrotu Vipassana or 5 elemental meditation. In that process, it is a guided meditation, and then you can self-guide yourself. If you go through that meditation, you will feel how one identity of you is dissolving into the next, like how the body dissolves into prana or the sensation, how the sensation dissolves into mind or perception, how the perception dissolves into judgment, and judgment dissolves into a state of feeling of only existence. And if you go on watching it, within a short while, your self-being will also fuse. Entire sadhana is dissolving the conflicts. So these 5 conflicts of the kula or the family, you yourself is a family of 5 identities. How to resolve the conflicts between these identities in Tantra is called Kaulakrama, means the practice of the family. The real Kaulakrama or the term Kaula is basically not fixed to a lineage or text. It's you and your 5 identities and how they're one and not conflicting with each other is exemplified as Shiva having 5 heads, Panchanana, or 5-headed Shiva. Why 5 heads? All the 5 identities have got resolved and there is no conflict in him. So that practice in Tantra is called Kaulakrama. Kaula practice or the family practice. সাধনা করতে হবে বাপ, কথায় তো হবে না।
উপলব্ধি নয়, it's a feeling or
see, any realization or upalabdhi or realization cannot happen just by thought. It has to be through experience. Your thought has not appeared just like that. It has appeared from the congregation of your senses in your memory. So Vedanta wrongly says just by thoughts you will realize it's fake and false. Because first is experience that creates perception. Without sensation, there is no perception. So one who goes by perception does self-hypocrisy. That is an intellectual understanding ungrounded in reality. To speak about it, I will say that Shankaracharya's life, again, he was giving this teaching that I am not my body, I am not my prana, I am not my mind, I am not my intellect, I am the absolute truth. Suddenly, a wrathful Kapalika or a tantric wizard came and tell him, whatever you are saying, is this a false doctrine or true? It's true to you. You have realized it. He said, of course. Otherwise, how I am saying it? And all his devotees and disciples all shouted against him. How dare you challenge him? So he said, no, I am just asking because then I will proceed in something else. So Shankar said, yes, you can proceed. That if you have no body, no prana, no mind, no intellect, then you have no possession over your body. He said, no. No possession over your life. He said, no. Okay, then I can offer you as a sacrifice to Ma Chamunda because that is my ritual. I only wanted to find a person who is not attached to his body and mind. So come with me, I will slaughter you in front of my deity and I will accomplish, and you will lose nothing because you don't have these things. So Shankara, by spiritual ego, here comes the spiritual ego and identity, followed him. And none of his disciples were ready to follow him. They were climbing up a mountain. What the top of the mountain is the seat of Chamunda, where this wrathful tantrika is practicing. So in the way, only Hastamalakacharya, his youngest disciple, was following him. And Hastamalakacharya is known to be mad. Shankaracharya could not make him wear robes, chant mantras, or anything. He was absolutely a mad, whom Shankara took as a disciple because he didn't talk for 18 years. When he was 18-year-old, his parents met Shankara and said, you are God, you saved my son. He does not talk, he's mad. So he went and saw this boy who is jumping from mountain cliff to the ocean, rolling on the stones. His body have many wounds, but he's laughing in glory. So Shankara went and after some time could stop him and said, why don't you talk to people? Why do you not talk? And he first time talked. I don't get anybody to talk to. It's worthless to talk to people. So from there, Shankar picked him up. So now, Hastamalak is following Shankara without fear, and the tantric is taking him. In the way, a lion came and pounced upon tantric, who was in the first in the line, and took him away. At that point, Shankara, with tears, started worshipping in his hymns and prayers to Lord Nrsimha, or the lion-headed Vishnu, thinking that the lion is Sri Vishnu who came and saved him. Because he's spiritually high, no? He needs to be saved by God. God has come down to save. When he completed the stuti, Hastamalaka dropped his bag that he was carrying, his guru's bag, and turned back and started walking out. Then Shankara said, where are you going? He said, I have proved to you that you are a hypocrite and I'm leaving you now. only for your spiritual ego, I accompanied you so long. But now you have faced the reality. So long you have said there is no value to any form, any God. Everything valuable is self. And today, an ordinary lion came and as an accident took away the tantric. Why you are worshipping that lion as God? Because there was fear of death in you and you are saved from it. Out of gratefulness you are praying. So you are hiding your fear. So you are hiding in your spiritual ego the truth that you have not realized experientially that you are your body. You are not your body, you are not your prana, you are not your mind, you are not your intellect. You are just consciousness. It's a false intellectual remark. I don't follow anybody who is an intellectual hypocrite to himself. Thus, there cannot be any realization without experience. First, experience is needed and then realization. You know, because you have seen me from childhood days, my first part of life before going to Baba Thakur, when I accomplished in Tantra, I didn't talk about anything about these things. Because it was absolutely in experience and not in my words and thoughts. After I met Baba Thakur, I started from his words realizing my experiences. So realization will follow experiential wisdom. Without experiential wisdom, there is no realization. And today, many people have made different association timelines in Facebook and preaching Baba Thakur and self. None of them answered that they are realized if they are asked a question. So unrealized people are preaching a realizer's talks. It's information, not wisdom. Why? It didn't become wisdom to them because they didn't experience anything. Is it clear now? Realization and experience?
Much. Realization and experience gap. You have to fulfill that.
This is what Sri Ramakrishna said, that in a boatman is going with a pandit and a group of ignorant village folks. And the pandit is carrying a number of texts, holy texts. And the other people are saying, there is no place you are taking so books. Then he's saying, have you read this? Have you read that? Have you read this? And nobody has read anything of this. So suddenly a storm came and the Pandit was shouting, we are going to die, the storm. Then the boatman threw his basket of books in the water and said, hold on and save yourself. These people will save them. They know swimming. You don't know swimming, hold on to your books and save yourself. It's like that.
Thanks, dear.
Joy Guru.
Chattering of the mind, when we sit back and we listen to the chattering of the mind. And as you pointed out, that we have this identity clashes every moment on different levels. And we feel tired at times, and we feel that it is enough, and we are tired of all the identities. Is it also an identity problem, or is it's a realization for us? Or sometimes we feel that we know it because you said it, but we are not able to follow it, consciously see that. Is it also an identity problem?
Of course it is an identity problem, but it is a part-time realization. Like a poet writes one view this moment, and next moment can write absolutely an opposite view. When the poet is writing, the philosophy is his, it is coming from him, but it is not sustainable in him or her. That is why it changes the next moment. Our mind itself is enlightened without knowledge. But the moment there is knowledge, it claims realization. How much the realization is stable, is clear, how long you abide with that realization. I will say today that let us end up here. I'm very happy that I could see all of my beloveds here at the same time. Some I know, some I don't even know personally, but I, of course, hold you in my heart, each one of you, because how much I know, there's limitation of my knowledge. But my feeling of being holds the feeling of being of everybody. Jai Guru, Jai Ma.